Guys, I need to quickly insert this 30 seconds or less before Midnight Reality starts. I propose to you what change could be made, metaphysical change to reality that would lead to a gentler, kinder, more loving population, a more fulfilling experience in society. And I was a little naive because what I proposed, I believe in. I believe this is accurate. But towards the end, you'll see I catch myself at the end, at the 30-minute mark. I say, wait a second. How the NPC might react to this may be far different than how a different type of spiritual being may react to this. So just assume, give me a little bit of leeway in the beginning. Assume we're all the same spiritual being, but then don't comment because I catch myself at the end that if the NPC knew this, things could be uglier. So I didn't realize that in the beginning. Hey guys, it's Matt. I'm re-recording the opening of this Midnight Reality because I keep saying a word that I don't want to say, that they forced us into saying. So 1 minute, this is a little strange, I know. I'm going to propose a question that I don't know how many of us have thought about it. To me, I have an answer to this question, and it would change life on what we call Earth. Everything about reality, our day-to-day social structure, culture, everything would change if this one little thing, but turns out to be a big thing, about reality was a little bit different than it actually is. I'll pose the question to you in a minute, and then if you want to pause and think about the answer. I think my answer will be very, very hard to beat. But I keep saying things like the conversation we're going to have, instead of all the fun we've been having recently, it's going to be very serious, at least as long. And I hate the word. They have forced us into the word, an intentional homophone, if I'm using that correctly, and they want expressed SIRIUS. If you look at, to take things seriously, there's no decent synonyms. I've looked many times. So I'm going to create my own word. I hate using the word. It's the English language is structured so we use, and we believe we're saying SERIOUS, and somehow they take from it SIRIUS and the dog star and all that other weird horse shit. I'm using reciteer. That's my word. We use a lot of hobo code, so the following conversation, guys, we've been having a lot of fun. This will be rather reciteer, and I looked, Matt, that could be even more evil than C. I looked into it. The prefix res. I think there was one little thing I found that says there's a Latin that it means thing. That's actually what works. This thing and tier, a tiered structure, TIER. We're going to look at a tier that's more, using the old word serious, take it seriously. You can't avoid the word. That's the problem. And we're not going to, I'm sure this will break down as all of my videos do into making fun of it. Man, aren't you going to talk about Zelensky's and Trump's fight? Not right away. I'm trying to avoid that because that just turns into a comedy show. It's a joke what they're presenting to us. I'm trying to avoid that because the question, Matt, pose the question. We're already 2 minutes in, you son of a... This is going to be very reciteer. RESITIER. I'm going to use the word. They're forcing us into serious where we believe it's SERIOUS and it's S, and to them, well, we've proclaimed that's not what it is. We've taken the energy away from it, but nevertheless, I can't stand the word. And I don't want to be forced into using a not word that I don't want to use. Sorry. It's now, the following conversation will be reciteer. And adding this on the end, I don't know if this is going to stick, guys. This word is going to work. This is ridiculous to you. All I can tell you is right now I'm tired of being forced into using their word serious. There's no good synonyms for it, all by design. Who knows what they get out of people using that word? Then they homophone it across to SIRIUS and their dog star crap. Who cares? All right, let me pose the question, or let me put my thoughts together so I do this correctly. Question. If you could make one change to this reality that would affect culture, people interacting with each other, life in general, in a more beneficial way than any other change, what change would you make? Now, before you pause and think about it, anything is on the table, even supernatural or metaphysical type changes. Someone said, if we were born with two heads, Matt, that would make life so much better. I mean, anything is on the table. I'm just using a ridiculous example so you don't take anything off the table. My solution, or what I would propose, is not that strange, but it's along the lines of, it's a reality that we don't have today with a supernatural element. If this existed, life across the board would improve tenfold. The way people dealt with each other and the way societies and non-milk influence would just go down overnight in 90%. So anything's on the table. Don't really think the two heads would help, but you could say if some people were born to 10 feet tall, whatever it may be, that anything is on the table. But of all things, there's many things that would help out the way we deal with our fellow man and woman on the street, and how cities work and countries work and large groups of people live together. This, to me, would be number one in terms of its beneficial effect. I'll just pause for 5 seconds in case you want to pause, then I'll be right back. To me, it would be if we knew the exact day of our death. Maybe from birth, maybe at age 30, we get a blood test. I'm not sure how best it would be done, but at some point, once somebody matures in their 30s, and they knowing the exact date of their death would change everything on earth for the better overnight. And I'm sure many of you, even right now, are going, well, what would that do, Matt? I don't want to know the date of my own. You might not want to know. Many of us would say, well, I don't want to know. It doesn't matter. If life improved by 90%, it would be a pretty good thing. And I can demonstrate and prove here that it would be the most beneficial thing that could happen to this reality. In my opinion, a nastiness that stems from so many people comes from almost a covering up that they're going to die, some sort of weird belief as they roll through life that they're going to live forever. Would you really backstab your brother-in-law to steal $20,000 or whatever through a shady deal? Or, hey, Bill, give me the money and I can double your investment, and just take advantage of him and knowing the investment's not going to work out, and then you put a little money into the investment and pocket 15. All that sort of nastiness millions of times a day in people. Would the brother-in-law really be doing that if he knew that, everybody would be different? It's not like we would all live to age 80, or his date might be 52. Someone else's date may be 91, but knowing the date, would they really do that? Would it really be so important? Think all the petty things multiplied billions of times over a day is just people. Or you could just say that the base level, they're not in touch with their own mortality. On paper, you could slide a piece of paper with questions and answers and multiple choice. Say, are you going to die someday? And they'll, of course, say, well, yeah, they'll get the right answer. But do they truly believe it? How many have they ever come to grips with it? Few people have, in my opinion. Maybe 2-3 weeks out or 2 months out when they're in their 80s and they're getting sick, or maybe. But as they go through their 30s, 40s, 50s, oh no, that death is for somebody else. All the nastiness and the backstabbing. And I mean, just you see it in the comment section of this channel and other channels. Everybody's always trying to dig, little digs, little grinds, little backhanded compliments. Vitriol, nastiness would go away if people truly realize my date is 64 and that's it. And it was exact. All that pettiness would go away, in my opinion. So Matt, if you could flip the switch, would you do it? Absolutely, I would do it. And it gets back to, the Brad Pitt famous speech in Troy, the gods envy us. Absolutely, we'll bring that back in. He says, because we're mortal, everything is more beautiful. Well, if people know they're going to die and truly come to grips with it, which they don't, everything is more beautiful. I guarantee, whatever Violet was able, her mental cognition was breaking down a bit. She was having all sorts of problems, and she wasn't all quite there. But if she was, then it would have, that last 4 months would have been more beautiful, of course, than when something is coming to an end. It's more beautiful. Even petty things. Imagine knowing the date of your own death. As a kid, 21 years old, I graduated Penn State. We had the lease in the apartment for 2 more months, and I wasn't supposed to start Silo Electronics. And I knew that the job would be pretty horrible. So graduate Penn State, summa cum laude, which is higher than magna, and I'm going to start as an assistant manager at Silo Electronics, which was eventually put out of business by Circuit City. I knew it would be bad. I didn't know but I didn't know it would be as bad as it was until I got in there. When I spent $1,000 on this camcorder, and nobody told me that the warranty's only 90 days. It's of course they all break it. They break it 95 days, 110 days, and it was Reading, Pennsylvania, the old coal towns. People didn't have the money. They just got the camcorder because they have the 2 kids. They worked the dead end job. He put everything he had in the camcorder. One person be incredibly angry and upset, another person ready to cry. I'm like, and they would send me, of course, to deal with the irate. It was horrible, and I could just do hour after hour of how horrible that job was. I quit after 6 months. I said, I can't take this. I can find some TPS report office job somewhere, and I'll tell you about it some other time. So the point was, sorry to be long-winded, even when I was 21, we had the lease for 2 more months, and I didn't start the job till like mid-July or something like that, or early July, knowing the job would be pretty awful. Knowing that whole Penn State college experience, I had no more classes, no work for 2 months. We just had the lease. My father was like, we had to pay the lease through, I guess, August 1st. Just stay up there till you start your job, whatever. Here's, $400 to get you by, whatever. Pitchers of beer were $3. So knowing that was coming to an end, it was more beautiful, of course, than it ever had been when I was there as a sophomore, and because it was coming to an end. It was gone forever. Now, that's obvious, of course, but for a 21-year-old to basically realize that, and they don't know shit about shit, they don't know nothing about nothing. How about when you're knowing the date of your death is 50 and you turn 40 or 42? You don't think you're going to notice the flowers a little bit different? Going to be nicer to people? Absolutely. And pausing for a moment to see if this sort of concept has been presented in a book, famous story, movie. And I can only think of one example. I'll look to your comments, but it's not like, Justin Timberlake and In Time. They're immortal. That's just the opposite. The countdown clock on your whatever it is with the Luciferian A's or whatever counting down under the skin, they always thought they could get another gig or another job or a way to get money to add more time on. They'd stay young forever. Justin Timberlake and In Time or whatever is the exact opposite of what I'm talking about. Maybe that's why the society was so nasty. Everybody could always think they could get some more time. It wasn't a true countdown to mortality, to death, because you could always find a way to cheat it, even if you had to steal or whatever it may be. So the only thing I can think of is, Winchester in MASH? It appeared on that Star Trek episode, and I've talked about this a few times. I don't think I've ever done this sort of video before, proposing that the greatest change to our society would be if everybody knows the exact date and time and moment of their death. I don't know if we'll talk about that a little bit later. Would it be just the day, or do you write down to the second? I don't know. Maybe that's irrelevant to this conversation. So what was his name? Winchester on MASH? David Stiers? Something like that? I know he died... I don't know, maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago. He was a guest on Star Trek The Next Generation. He fell in love with Diana Troy's mother, Roxana, whatever. I'll say Bayul. No, that's a skater. Oksana Troy. And then she tells her, in my culture, it's not like a genetic thing where he knows the date of his death, but it's very similar. In his culture, he says, we go into this machine or whatever, euthanasia at age 60, he says to her. And he's 59 or whatever, and he says, I've got to go back to my home planet, and at age 60, we go into this machine, so we're no longer a burden on society, and this is what we do. And of course, she's horrified. She's fallen in love. She's like, just don't do it. She says, we've done this for thousands of years. And at the time, it's shocking to me now, age 60. It's as a man in his 50s, like we think, well, why didn't they bump it up to 80 or something? That's pretty brutal. But the actor was in his late 50s, but at the time, seeing Star Trek: The Next Generation episode, I guess I saw this one at Penn State. That's an old man. Oh, 60? Oh, hell. Oh, he's lived an entire life. What's wrong with that? Put him in the euthanasia machine back on his home planet. That old man, what toppings he got left? That's an old man. To me, it's like, that ain't old. But, when you're in your 20s, of course, a man of 60. Anyway, but that's the only source of media or movies, books. Is there anything like that where they know their exact day or I don't know, however you want to put it, month of, I don't think year would be good enough. It has to be more exact so people know an exact countdown. And watch the change. If that were to happen, watch the change of behavior in people. I think 90% of the nastiness would go away, because the nastiness is really stems, in my opinion, from believing you're going to live forever, an immortality of some kind. And that stems from people not wanting to get a grasp or to really believe or take in to their heart the notion that they're going to die. Again, it's far different putting it on paper or just answering a question. Hey, Tim, do you believe you're going to die someday? Well, yeah, of course, everybody dies. Just spouting that out does not mean they believe it deep down. And that I told you about the moment I had when I was about 24 or so. I was in Long Beach Island with 8 other people. We had a home, a summer beach rental. We all coughed up our $2,000, got this shack, this piece of shit on 30th Street in Long Beach Island down by Beach Haven. And this was, I guess it was not, well, it was shortly after Penn State. It could have been 93, 94, whatever it may be. And no, it was probably like $1,200 because we put too many people on the lease. You was only allowed like so many people, but we put more people on to get the price down. Anyway, it just, I was hungover, sitting. It just can't. Nobody said anything in the room. It just hit me that I was going to die. I told you this story before, but only some of the old guys are going to remember it. Complete understanding of my mortality came across me like a wave, and it was very scary. I remember telling you guys about this. I have no religion, no faith. Most of my family's Catholic, but I looked around and all they were doing is going through the motions, and I just wanted nothing to do with that. And no religion, no thinking about the afterlife. Just more like people around me were more like atheists, like just go into the dirt, or all we are is dust, or Stephen Hawking, people with those posters and stuff, and Big Bang and Monkey Man, and it was the fear of non-existence. I go, oh my, the realization came across me like a wave in the morning, and I just sat there people were chatting and having eggs or whatever and talking, and it just hit me in this social scene. I didn't share it with anybody. I didn't raise my hand and say, by the way, the notion that I'm going to die for real just came across me like a wave. Can I share that with anybody? It didn't happen like that. I just kind of sat there, and it didn't I wasn't like a vegetable for the rest of the day or anything. I was a young man, and after 5 minutes and somebody yelled, "Hey, Matt, throw me the football," it just kind of went away, whatever it may be. Or we started drinking beer early. Whatever it may, just went away. But it hit me, and it stuck with me. And from that moment, it wasn't just me, saying, going through the motions, saying, "Oh, of course we're going to die." It was me having that realization. But that didn't really change my behavior, of course, because we still play that same game with ourselves. Well, we're going to live, we'll be in our 90s or whatever, and that's so far away. Then you begin to live as if you're immortal, because that's so far away. That'll never come. I remember being in elementary school, and many of you about my age kind of remember similar things with all the talk about the millennium changeover, because it was, of course, 1999 Pootie Tang Award, but changing not just the century, but the millennium. So that was talked about a lot in my elementary school. And how old will I be? 30? Though that'll never come. I remember clearly thinking, because you're 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, and you don't have that much life to, your reflection back only goes to birth. It's not that far from, you're not that far from birth. So I just remember thinking, what are we even talking about this for? That'll never come. Age 30, the year 2000. And that's what I'm sure, even anybody that does realize they're going to die, oh, it's so far away, then they don't live their life that way. They're still trying to steal somebody's girlfriend and be nasty to this person and try to screw this person at work or whatever. If you put whether, and I don't know, again, I guess we're not going to really get into, it doesn't matter whether, what are you saying? Everybody at birth just knows somehow, maybe, or there's a forced blood test or something. I guess we shouldn't even get into that. Let's not get into how the people know. It might ruin the whole point here. They know. We know we know at age. Maybe we know at age 20. It doesn't matter. But when you know. And some people, the date might be 35, and other people, it might be 87. It's going to be all over the place in this example. Maybe would it change if everybody died on the same day? I don't think it would matter much, because knowing whether it's 35 or 81, knowing the exact date is bringing that sense of mortality the 100% assurance that people are going to die. And again, saying it is not the same as believing it. You know that's true. And the person can then observe society. Everybody who they say was going to die on this day actually died. So throughout their entire lives, they see that this date actually comes true. That would be enough to get, and whether it be 110 for somebody or just 29 or 25 or 50, I'm saying the date doesn't really matter. Knowing it's coming for sure is what matters. So, of course, the person where it says 105, they're going to say, oh, that's so far away, and they still might live their life like they're more like an immortal. But just knowing, that would change everything, in my opinion, create a much more kind, loving society, people stopping to smell the roses, to appreciate things more, to help their fellow man, knowing we're all in the same boat here. That would change everything. I'm very, very sure of this. And I don't know if this is Pootie Tang Award and it's so clear to everybody listening now how that would impact life, or you're struggling with this. I don't know. I'll look to your comments. Okay, it's been a couple years since we analyzed one of the greatest truth drops in movie history, the Brad Pitt Achilles speech that he gives to, is it Perseus in the movie Troy? The gods envy us because we're mortal. Because being in the state of being mortal and understanding your mortality, he doesn't say it exactly like this, of course, but makes things more beautiful. He says to her, we will only be here once. You will never be as lovely as you are now. Now, I don't think he's just doing that to sleep with her. I think he's capable of probably doing that on his own. I think he believes it. I think it's great truth drop advice. We will never be here again. I mean, if you truly understood that, and, talk about part 2, the work. Part 1, seeing through the trick. Everybody here sees through the reality trick. A major part of part 2, the work and the worry about yourself activities, I think this one applies to everybody. I'm saying everybody's part 2, the work is different. What you came to do in this incarnation is different than what I came to do. But this one, I think this one we share. A sense of our own mortality and where are you on the sliding scale. Meaning how many people truly understand they're going to die, and those that do understand it, again, it's a sliding scale. Think of that moment I had in Long Beach Island. It came across me as a person in my early 20s. Well, I had that realization, and it stuck with me forever. But my sliding scale going up to 10 was only 2 out of 10. And the way I carried myself through the rest of the day, or going out and partying or whatever at a dance club or whatever we did, it didn't just change my whole outlook on life. I very quickly, an hour later, resorted back to the dumb-ass 20-year-old that I was. It changed me a little bit. So my sliding scale now is, I still have work to do. This is part 2, the work, but it's like an 8 out of 10. It's hard for anybody to get to 10 out of 10. It's just part of the trick of this life, that just deep down this little voice, oh, you'll live forever, don't worry about it. We can say all we want on paper, but to truly get there. So now more like an 8 out of 10, meaning I'll go get some mail or whatever, and I'll just have my head down. It's a beautiful day, whatever, walk back the driveway into the garage, and I'll say, wait, I didn't see one thing. I'll go back and do it again. Didn't listen to one bird, didn't see one flower or piece of snow stuck to tree. I didn't observe anything that's so incredible. There are these pileated woodpeckers around here. They're jackhammer into trees. It bothers me. They're going to just kill the trees, but nature knows what it's doing. It knows what it's doing. It puts a big hole in an oak tree. The oak tree will be okay. I think nature knows what it's doing. It does. So am I noticing? I'm at an 8 out of 10. And it's getting almost a little bit ridiculous. I almost want to lie down and cry over a flower or something like that. I mean, I hope it doesn't get that bad, but you know what I mean? I'm happy. My scale is now up to about 8 out of 10. So there's, even though we might take into our hearts our full understanding that we're going to die, it's still a sliding scale. Do we live that? And we can't live it every moment. We don't have to be crying over flowers every moment. You know what I mean? But do we truly live it? That's part 2, the work. I mean, many people that have had, I'm going to say it again, a very reciteer type incident in a car accident, not necessarily an NDE or an after-death experience, but sometime you say, I should be dead. I mean, that helps, but it can also hurt because you've just laughed at death. It didn't come to you. In some ways, it can help. and you see your own mortality, but in some ways it can hurt. That car accident, that accident back there, it should have killed me. But some people go away from that believing they're more immortal because nothing then will get them, if you see what I mean. So getting back to what Brad Pitt said in the movie Troy, as Achilles, from now on we'll just say Achilles. Who wants to keep picturing Brad Pitt? The element number one to me is when he says the gods envy us. Now, my interpretation of that, I don't care what his interpretation is, the writer's, what it means to me, Humpty Dumpty. It means what I say it means. I mean, the gods are not this separate thing. I don't interpret it that way. Why would they envy us if we're mortal? The first time you see that, you're like, well, we're all going to die. We're all screwed. Why would the gods envy us? Because we're the same thing. We're the same thing, or whatever these gods are in the famous Achilles quote. The gods are, wherever they are gods to Achilles. They're envying us because they know we're the same, because we're having the mortal experience. He goes on, everything is more beautiful when one understands their mortality or believes they're going to die. They envy us because we are the same. We're all not going to die. We all go on forever and ever and ever, of course. But while we're here, we're believing, actually fooled into believing in our own mortality. And looking at the little flower and feeding the pigeons, isn't that incredible how this works in this reality and that? And I potentially am no longer going to exist. The gods envy us, or those on earth, the notion or the belief that we may no longer exist, our existence may not continue, is something that, quote, in this example, the gods envy. It's a feeling they can't have. Now, this is an area where most people do fool themselves or lie to themselves, meaning the fear of death can never be fully squashed in almost anyone. If there's anybody that has done it, there's certain people in our group, I hear you, but it's extremely rare, and most people are very delusional. Meaning you could be the most religious person in the world at your Methodist church or whatever it may be, but you can never fully get rid of. There's that little percentage chance that that death may be the end of existence. I know the religion. Oh, I know I'm going to be with Jesus, whatever. Most people, there may be people here. We are a very rare group with complete confidence. That's almost existent on what we call Earth. Most people fool themselves. Oh, I know I'm going to be with my loved one. And the more repeat a thing, don't improve it. No, and somebody like me, there's so many clues in this reality and our spiritual selves, and what Tony told me about higher self makes sense, and where are all the numbers for, and what are all the clues in this reality for if it's just one and done and our existence is going to be snuffed out. Of course, do I have a very strong confidence that this death will bring just a transition, that we go on. Of course, we're thousands and millions and trillions of times larger than this earth reality. Of course, I believe that. But for me, if I come up here and say 100%, I mean, that's fooling myself. Remember the gods envy us. That's one of the main points of having this experience. You don't ever want to get to 100%. Going in, it's an incredible experience. Going into death, whether you get it down to 10%, 5%, or it's 50-50, what these people say makes sense, that we are mortal beings, but I'm scared as shit of death. That's one of the incredible parts of this incarnation. The notion that death may bring the end of existence. That's one of the main reasons we incarnated. You don't want to fully get rid of that. That's when you go on a roller coaster ride, there's that 1% chance that thing could fly. If you knew it was 100% safe, the experience would not be nearly what it is on a roller coaster ride or something like that. It's very, very safe, but there's that little chance. You've heard the stories of the flying, that risk, and that's what makes it different. And we can have all the confidence in the world. But one of the beautiful experiences of this reality is the little notion, and we don't need to fully get rid of it. Absolutely not. It's part of being here, that it could be the end of existence, because you carry a little bit of that. That's Matt, we'll manifest that. No. No, you can have confidence or whatever. That, especially if you believe that is a main part of why we incarnated. That's all what the gods envy us speech is about. Now, the second part of what Achilles says, because we're mortal, everything is more beautiful. He says, oh, I forgot this, because we are doomed. Doomed, and that's not the best way to put it, but it's a good way to put it in the way he said it. Because we're doomed, everything is more beautiful. Well, yes, Achilles, but only if the people truly believe that, believe or carry the notion that their mortality means they will die someday. And maybe that's the number one not-nilk goal of the modern life, and maybe the number one not-nilk success of modern times. Is maybe doesn't it seem like ancient man or man or woman of 150 years ago or 200 years ago had a much more understanding, because death was all around. In the newborn or in a family of 10 kids, 1 or 2 may not make it or more, right? I mean, and the grandmother over here may die at 90, but the other grandmother died at 51. Death is all around. Somebody cuts their finger in the field, no antibiotics, no penicillin, and whatever it may be. Death is all. I think their notion of their mortality was much stronger. And that's one of the great successes of modern day not-nilk, to get people to go through their lives that they're immortal or not really understanding that they're going to die. They'll say it on paper, of course. They'll admit, oh, everybody dies. Everybody knows that. A Pootie Tang Award back on you, Matt. But then they run around and kind of keep up with the Joneses. Oh, our neighbor over here just leased a new Audi. Oh, we got to get our kids into that new school, the cello practice, enrolled inside, all the running around and nonsense. And they don't live their lives like that because they don't carry that with them. Deep down, they don't believe they're going to die. And that to me, that's the number one not-nilk success, maybe of all time. So again, Achilles says the gods envy us because we're able to see everything as more beautiful, because we carry with us that death will come. And potentially, there's a small percentage chance, the end of all existence, everything then is more beautiful. He uses the word doomed. I'm not in love with that word, but it expresses the point. Because we are doomed. But Achilles, the gods aren't envying this population because they're not carrying that with them as they live day to day. Everything is not more beautiful to this population. Everything is more beautiful when you have a sense of your own mortality and you know you're going to die. To this population out our window, everything is more beautiful? No, it's the greatest not-nilk success, and it's the opposite of what Achilles put forth in that scene from Troy. So sitting here for a minute thinking, what do the popcorn crunchers take away from that Achilles speech? But all I have to think back is, how did I take it? The movie's 2004. I didn't know squat about squat. When that movie came out, I probably believed we need to get that 7-foot guy in the cave. I believed every bit of it. What did I know? So I just have to think back to and I remember to a degree thinking, what does he mean the gods envy us? This Zeus up there on his throne and these immortals, he can get his chicken pot pies served up anytime he wants on floating trays. He can get little winged creatures to give him massages. Why would the gods envy us? We're down here fighting these wars, and we got BO, and what's he talking about? Well, okay, the second part, everything is more beautiful because we're doomed, we're going to die. I guess it could be seen that way. It's more beautiful because we have a limited time to experience it. I struggled with it. What do you mean the gods envy? They're going to envy. Well, now I know, at least in my interpretation, I'm very confident in this. You might have a different interpretation. The gods envy us. We're the same. We're down here in this temporary role, believing it may be the end of existence. We're the same. You and me, we're going to be the same. We'll be one. It's not like God's up there, have all these special powers, and we're down here. No, that it's just a role reversal. What is it? Where does that? It struck me from a video recently. The role reversal is the Saturnalia. Yeah, that's where Saturnalia comes into play. The role reversal. The king becomes the servant or the pauper, and the people in the fields become the lords. This is our role reversal. That the gods envy us because we're having the experience and we believe it. That's the thing. We believe we're potentially doomed. We believe this could be the end of existence. that during Saturn, sometimes it was said that the lords playing the role of peasant, or knowing they're going to go back, and they were enjoying it. It was a very different role, enjoying it more than you might think they would enjoy it, playing the role of the pauper, of course, the worker or the slave or whatever. I'm not an expert on exactly how Saturnalia role reversal took place, and it's not really relevant either. Of course, the lower caste was happy for that week or the 12 days of Christmas, playing the upper caste. But that's why the gods envy. There's no difference between whatever he's calling gods and you. That's the point, in my opinion. And the last part of the speech is everything is more beautiful, knowing that we have a very short time and we're going to die. And that's true. If you carry that with you, I guess I've said this a few times, but it's so important. I mean, in terms of everything we've ever done here, nothing is really as important as this. Carrying it with you that you're going to die, and everything is more beautiful. That's why, related back to the reason I made this video, knowing the exact day or the exact year, whatever it may be, knowing when as an hourglass, you can see how much sand is left. If that was an experience that we carried, everything would be more beautiful and more kind and more loving. There's no doubt about it. Is there anybody that takes the other side of the podium on that? Please put it in the comments how that would not lead, everybody knowing the date of their death would not lead to, a much better situation. Now, we have potentially different types of spiritual entities here. NPCs, potentially, people that are not the same as you and I spiritually. We know that the Melvin and the Bezos of the world are a different type of spiritual incarnation. They're not the same as us. Tony called them sequentials. So because there's 2 different types, maybe there's 5 different types. Maybe there's 10 different types. And someone may say, okay, how would the NPC react then? I can almost, like I'm playing the other side of the podium now against myself. Someone would say, well, Matt, if one of these types of entities, like an NPC type that wasn't going to go on, or maybe had no immortal existence, they knew that next week was the time up, maybe they would just, the fact that they would just run amok and they would just go into a real convenience store, a Wawa or a 7-Eleven, knowing they have one more week left. Everybody knows the day of their death, and just say, that'll be $52, sir. I ain't paying that. I ain't got more than a few days left. I ain't paying. In fact, I'll start shoving these Wawa hoagies in my mouth. I ain't paying for none of it. Somebody might argue that society would completely break down in that way, knowing, I just got a few weeks left. Fuck it, let's go buy a Ferrari and just race it all over the place and then trash it. Or because they don't know, they have to act with somewhat caution or reason or plan ahead, because they may have 10 years left. Can't just blow through their money the night before. So maybe this whole notion comes down to, and maybe I should have presented this in the beginning, would the real spiritual being like you and I, if everybody was like us in this world, would it improve? There's no question. It gets to the Brad Pitt speech. Everything becomes more beautiful. If people are noticing how beautiful everything is, they become kinder. Maybe the NPC, or if people or certain groups of the population are not the same as us, maybe it would be just the opposite. Maybe it would be like, what are those damn movies? The Purge. It would be like The Purge, knowing the 25,000 people that aren't going to make it to March 1, they know they're not going to make it to, they're getting together to do some sort of purge or something. They're going to run amok. That maybe the NPC or the organic portal may act like that, knowing or believing deep down there's nothing more for them, or the atheist, for example. So, yeah, I should have put this in the beginning. I don't think I'm going to go back and insert anything. See, maybe somebody right in the beginning is pointing this sort of thing out to me. So, of course, if I had to correct the beginning of this video, or I would say, assuming everybody in this world is the same spiritual entity that we are. There's nobody listening to me that doesn't believe they existed before they were born and won't exist in some way after, whatever your religious views may be, or spiritual, or, whatever. Everybody believes that this is not one and done, or atheism, or Stephen Hawking. That's ridiculous to the people listening. So I should have clarified that. Just sitting here for a few minutes thinking, yeah, this is a pretty important point that should have been presented in the beginning. Because every time I do some menial work out back, like rake leaves or chop wood or whatever it is, and it does relate to the famous Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, just do the same thing, but chop wood, carry water, but with a whole different perspective. That's what that means. And a whole different appreciation. Before enlightenment, I got to chop wood, carry water, Sifu, master. Fuck that. I don't want to do that. And then after enlightenment, which is, again, the whole, I love the word enlightenment. Like, you just zap, I'm enlightened. That's ridiculous. The learning never ends in this place. There never is any true enlightenment. That's all a bunch of hogwash, but just let it go for now. After enlightenment, there's no, I want to stop that. You appreciate every bit of the chopping wood and carrying water, and it's a whole different, it's the same job, but the perspective is completely different. So I can relate that to myself when I'm doing some menial task or raking leaves in the backyard, or chopping wood, or not. I don't carry water out back, but something really menial, like digging a hole or whatever. Many times, almost every other time I'm doing a task like that, it just pops into my head. If you had, here we go again with the whole, that Bootsy scenario. If you had unlimited funds, somebody offers you $100 million, $1 billion, or the asteroid was coming in, this is the last day for you, what would you do differently? Would you want to go party in Paris? And I say every other time I do some menial labor, I say if the meteor was 5 hours away, there's nowhere I'd rather be than doing this, raking these leaves, right here in this exact spot. And I mean, anywhere else on Earth, there's no question. There's nowhere else I'd rather be or be with. I just want to be with my 2 cats, whatever. Would have no desire to. Now that could be just our type of entity. I think many of you would be the same thing. Like if the meteor was coming in, or the Bruce Willis's asteroid, what I'm doing now, whatever, walking your dog, you wouldn't want to change anything. You wouldn't want to try. But the NPC, if there's different spiritual entities here, they would act differently, wouldn't they? You can almost sense that they would. So sitting here for another minute quietly, I guess I'll just conclude this, guys. I don't think there's any more to say in terms of what was presented. Just looking again at the news to make sure Dubuque is okay. I mean, the spat between Trump and Zelensky. I didn't look at the details. I didn't watch the video footage. I'm not going to. I mean, this Not Milk reality, really is pathetic. Some sort of spat between Zelensky and Trump, come on. I say this every time, but if you would have tried to tell us, or I tried to tell you 15 years ago, or just 5 years ago, what am I talking about? What this reality would become, where 1 out of 10 families, that people with kids at home don't know what gender they're supposed to, what bathroom they're supposed to use. We wouldn't have believed it. It's unbelievable. Everything about the Ship of Fools is a metaphysical carriage of sorts. It's all proven out true. We got off of it, and it's just going to get even stranger. And again, that's the best news of all time. I'm not going to get into why you want it to break down. It's the best news of all time. They presenting some sort of a spat between Zelensky, the auto parts king, and Trump. I'm not going to watch it. I don't care. Of course, it's popped up here. It popped up there. I get a general sense as to what happened. But during the press conference, Zelensky from Tommy Boy, the auto parts king, he says, "Thanks, Ray." "Thank you, son. And now I'm going to yell at Trump." He doesn't. Why not just use the Dan Aykroyd character with the big hair that's flamed up? That's just use the Dan Aykroyd character as the president of Ukraine. Why? It's no different. It's no more ridiculous than what Not Milk is doing to us now. Make it stop. No, I say that. I don't. I rescind that. When I say make it stop, Not Milk, I'm completely joking. I want more of it, and I want it to break down even further, please. For example, what could happen next time? Zelensky, in a rage, tears his clothing off, tears every bit of his clothing off, and runs out of the Oval Office or where were they meeting, in the green room or whatever, just tears his clothes off, and maybe plays out the exact scene from Old School. We're going to go streaking through the quad. We're going to go streaking. Everybody's doing it. Oh, hi, honey. And have him go streaking through the quad or through the rose garden of the White House naked. Let it continue to break down. When I say make it stop, I'm joking. It's just for fun. I want it to continue. Please, Not Milk, make it more ridiculous, please. Thanks for listening.